My country is a peace, sweet land of liberty, of the I sing. And that's where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims ride. From every mountainside, every mountain.
And the four-way tests of the things we think say or do. Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Like the Lord precious will be beneficial to all concerned. And Dan Clement will be doing our invocation.
Let us pause for a moment to give thanks. Today, we are grateful for Rotary International's focus on disease prevention and treatment and the important part we can play to that end. Today, we are mindful that so many people worldwide suffer from inadequate and non-existent medical health services. Today, we reflect on Rotary's long-term commitment to build health service capacities in many countries. We are especially grateful for the great strides made in eradicating polio worldwide, championed by Rotary and supported by our members since 1985, and the active role Rotary is playing this day to combat the COVID-19 pandemic in the world. We are thankful for the crucially needed medical device that Brainerd Rotary has given to doctors in Costa Rica during this Rotary year through our annual peach sale proceeds. We are amazed by the partnerships Brainerd Rotary continues to build with Rotary clubs in different parts of the world to establish and strengthen essential community medical and health services and provide treatment. We are most grateful for our excellent local health providers, clinics, hospitals, and the advanced medical services our larger community enjoys. We celebrate Rotary's dedication to its long-standing tradition of service above self in our community, through our vocations, and in the world, that we may indeed all lead healthy, full lives. This is our prayer. Amen.
Thank you, Dan. All right, introduction of guests. Rick Bricker, our past district governor. I did not see Rick. Assistant District Governor Don Peterson is here. The District Executive Secretary Gloria Mink, I did not see. District Crisis Committee Don Ryan. And today with us is District Training Committee member Joe Carlson. Are there other guests?
Yes.
Hi, Ben. Welcome to Rotary. We enjoy your dad. Well, Emma, we also enjoy your grandpa and your mom in Rotary. I bet you do. Other guests? All right, seeing none. Rotary-related announcements. I know we have a couple of them. If you could please come up when you're making the announcement to the microphone so that the people on Zoom can also hear us. Thank you.
We have chosen our location for the change of gavel. It will be at Cragen's on June 29th. We haven't got the exact times and dates, Jennifer. I'll get that locked in today for the happy hour and the dinner, and we'll get an invitation out from Kevin and an email that is pending, but June 29th will be the change of gavel. I don't think we're planning on a golf tournament this year. We're going to do a board event, just like a pontoon ride with that board is our plan, and Jennifer and I'll get that invitation out as well, probably starting sometime early afternoon.
Mark Halverson, we're part of the staining crew. It's going to be tonight at 5 o'clock, 156 Pineview Drive. That's just a couple miles from here off Buffalo Hills Lane. I've got 6 or 8 paintbrushes. I've got things set up in our garage so we'll be out of the sun, out of the mosquitoes, and the planks. Ask Paula how heavy they are. I don't know if Paula's going to be able to be there with her accident, so. But 5 o'clock, and then we're going to go to again at 9 o'clock on Wednesday. We're going to do it, and John Forrest is going to be there. He's my neighbor, so I can't keep him away. And then we're just going to add days as we go. A couple people, we meet maybe at 5, or we meet at early Sunday morning. If we don't keep Pete in stained lumber, it'll be bad. So please. When you see the email, give me a call.
Okay, so I helped Mark unload those. They're all big timbers, and it's really a 2-person job to even move these things around because nothing is sliced up yet. So, and it's hard for Mark to do that by him. I think it's impossible for Mark to do that by himself. So he really needs somebody to give him a hand. And I have another painting opportunity. I think I'm going to owe $1 now. So, so you may think nothing's going on with this pavilion, but there really is. And so there's the wood staining part, but there's also all of this hardware that needs to get painted. So I have 36 of these with me, these L brackets, and I have 24 of these flat plates. So I'm looking for a volunteer to take on painting all of these. So, and it's a 3-step process. It's you need to have a ventilated space because first you use a solvent to clean them all, and then you have to prime them, and then you have to paint them. So it can get a little tedious. And I'm not ducking out on something. I've saved all of the biggest and heaviest pieces. I'll do those at home by myself because I'm just better equipped to do that. But I need a volunteer to take these on. And then for somebody who's traveling to St. Cloud, or the Twin Cities, Menards here in Brainerd has ran out of the Australian timber oil that we're using at Mark's house. But there's several 5-gallon pails scattered around St. Cloud and Buffalo and Wilmer and all of the Twin Cities stores. It seems to be that just Brainerd and Alexandria are out of the material we're using. So if someone is traveling to there, let me know and I'll give you the details, and hopefully you could stop and buy that and bring it back. And of course you'd be reimbursed right away for the cost of it. So you're kind of, oh, and I haven't forgotten, I've had several people tell me that they are more about carpentry skills. And so I won't name names, but I haven't forgotten about that. We just aren't at that stage yet. So that's it. Next week. So you've got, even if I give you all this stuff today, if I could get it back next Tuesday, that's soon enough. Because I painted everything we need for the first 3 trusses. I have all of that ready to go. So it's the remaining 6 trusses. That's where this hardware gets used. Yep. 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 I'll give you all the exact details of what to pick up, okay? Okay, anything else? Nope, okay.
Hi, for those that I haven't had the pleasure to meet yet, my name is Ron Sanders, and for the 2021 or 21-22 speaker chair, I've accepted that responsibility. So if anybody has, we got pretty much an open slate starting in July. So if anybody has any suggestions, please get to me. I have a very simple cell number, 612-386-1100. So please give me a call. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I have one more Rotary-related announcement, and I'm taking some liberties here. For those of you who don't know, I'm also the city administrator for the city of Brainerd. That is right. Can't believe I'm saying that. Every month, the mayor gives out a Community Member of the Month award. And last night, the mayor did give out a Community Member of the Month to one of our Rotarians. And so I would like to ask John Forrest, please, to step up. And I'm going to present you with the certificate for the Community Member of the Month. So John was honored as really playing a pivotal role in Rotary Riverside Park, and how much the city of Brainerd has appreciated John's work on the front end of this, and the work that Rotary has done to provide the city with such a beautiful park. So, John, congratulations.
Thank you very much. It just so happens I was using the opportunity as some travel time to go through some computer stuff. And I was looking at some early documentation of the Rotary Riverside Park and the amount of people that have been involved in that project. This is maybe a recognition, for some reason has my name on it, but it belongs to Rotary. It's the Rotarians that did this, and every Rotarian has just one way or another participated in this. See Mark Erickson sitting out there. He certainly has been helping. See Mike Burton over there. Mike's involvement with the foundation that helped with the grant to get the park going. Rod Osterloh, John Lewis, Pete Nelson, of course. The accolades for Pete should just go on endlessly for what he has done for that park. But just about everybody in this room has participated one way or another in this park. Paul Sibusar, he's been down there working with bringing his equipment along. So nothing stands alone. This is all a Rotary Club project, and I want to thank all the Rotarians for their involvement in there, because without Rotary, it wouldn't have happened. So thank you very much.
And before I move on to Sergeant at Arms, the other way that John was recognized as Community Member of the Month has been his involvement in the Brainerd Riverfront Committee. That committee, which included Rod Osterloh, Jim Roloffs, has really made the difference in bringing some attention to the Mississippi River, and will result in a trailhead park that will be located just south of the high rise. So just to say that as well as the others. So thank you for letting me present this award to him, also on behalf of the city of Brainerd. Next is our Sergeant at Arms, Andy Reagan.
All right. I've been getting such positive feedback on all of my depth of technology type finds. So today, and my time is almost up as Sergeant at Arms. There we go. So today we're going to go on to a challenging topic, which is NFTs. Who here has heard of an NFT, what this is? Non-fungible tokens. Real simple concept here. But I bet, who can hold up a fungible token? Anyone? Anyone have one? A fungible token. Anyone have one? I bet you all, there you go. Paula has a fungible token. Okay? You can donate that for being the first one to do that. So a non-fungible token is more like a baseball card. Think of trading baseball cards back in the day. They have a value, but typically they're not used as currency for exchange. Certificates of authenticity, another good example of what a non-fungible token is. And so they're all over the news these days. As an example, the NBA is selling dunks. You can buy a 10-pack of dunks, and they're NFTs, and you own those dunks that were done by the NBA players, the highlight reel of 10 dunks. You can buy these dunks. Most famously, Christie's auction house sold a piece of digital art NFT for the piece of digital art by the author Beeple, the real person, for $59 million. So one of these NFTs went for $59 million. So point of all this is that everyone whose phone went off owes one fungible token. And there were a lot of you today. This is several. For everyone who's like me and wore shorts today, one fungible token. And then my last one before we do some happy fungible tokens would be also tech news, is that it wasn't enough for Jeff Bezos to build a $450 million yacht, that he also needed a support yacht for his $450 million yacht. He's now going to space. In 50 days, he's going to go up to space. Yeah. So if you've had an Amazon package show up at your house in the last week for anything, you owe one fungible token. So with that, we'll go on to happy fungible tokens.
I would love to hear a program where he could explain Bitcoin to me. And I was reading an article this morning on Bitcoin, and they were talking that 75% of the Bitcoin mining is in China. And okay, what's Bitcoin mining? I mean, is it done with a shovel, or is it done with digits, or what is? I don't understand it. But it is so massive that these computer banks that do the Bitcoin mining operate in one area of China in the summer months where they have rainfall and they have hydropower. And then when it dries up in winter, they move all these operations to North China where they have access to Mongolian coal. But it is so much that it is affecting China's ability to clean up their environment, because the electricity generated for Bitcoin mining is so substantial that China can't meet its commitments to clean up its environment. I thought, wow, somebody's got to explain this to me. I sure would like to know about it. But the bad part is China is putting pressure on Bitcoin miners to leave China, and they're coming to the United States. So that's a downside to it. But I do have a happy dollar, and I was able to join with my daughter and her family and her 4-month-old baby in Alaska for about 15 days. And we started on the Kenai Peninsula, and we were able to enjoy some beautiful spring-like weather on the Kenai Peninsula. And then we moved up to Tolkanika, or something close to that, which is the gateway to Denali. And we were able to enjoy more of the Alaska wilderness. And while we were at Tolkanika, they had a 6.1% earthquake. And I've always kind of wanted to experience an earthquake, but now that I've gone through one, I don't think I ever want to be in one again. It was really pretty interesting and scary. And that ties us into Paula Persons. Where's Paula? Oh, because Paula tipped over, and I'm thankful and happy that it didn't cause an earthquake. But Paula was walking to her mailbox and she tipped over, and you'll notice her foot's in a boot, and she did something with her wrist, and she's very lucky not to be more seriously injured.
Thank you, John. I didn't know you were the program today. You know, when you see Facebook, those of you that are on Facebook, you see what happened a few years past. Well, 5 years ago, Mike McConkey, Julie Anderholm, and the crew, Dennis and I, were standing right here breaking ground, and I'm very thankful we're here. Thank you.
I'm Emma Ferry. I want to thank you all so much for letting me be a guest with you here today. This summer, I'm the volunteer and housing coordinator with the Lakes Area Music Festival. And thank you. My happy dollar is that this summer we are able to open our concerts to the public in the new Gitche Ziba Performing Arts Center connected to the high school.
I'm Paula Shakulis, and I want to give $5 for our foundation board, who just met today. But in particular to Mike Burton, who just finished his year as president, or was it 2 years? I can't remember. No, you did 6 years of foundation board service. So thank you very much for that.
Oh my God, it's really tight. Yeah.
I didn't want to have to climb up here. Paula Persons, you can now call me Peg Leg. I'm arguing with the doctors. One says it's broken, the other one says it's just sprained, but I felt going up my driveway and it wasn't even a good story to tell. But that's what happens, so the things you have to do to get out of staining.
Hi, Kate Harris. My happy dollar is my daughter just turned 8 months old yesterday and started crawling and pulling herself up to stand in the last 2 weeks. So we have exciting times ahead.
Thanks, everyone.
And then before I get on to our speaker, I also want to make sure that I make a second announcement for Allie Vercoda. I always want to say Vercoda. Allie Vercoda for membership. You will be, the board did approve it. We have announced it twice, so you should expect an induction, thank you. I'll get my words right. Eventually, induction of Allie in the next couple of weeks. With that, I would like to invite Jim Roloffs and Paul Allegra up to introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon. I think it's special when you get a chance to see where our peach sale money is going. And today we are going to have that opportunity with Dr. Marco Padilla from Honduras. It's also special when we have a local connection, so we know exactly who the people are, where the money is going. And so Paul Allegra is our local connection. He's going to introduce Dr. Padilla.
So I should preface with, it's been a real pleasure to work with Mike Bierknes and Jim Roloffs in the past year, as well as Dr. Padilla on this project. And I met Dr. Padilla a couple of years ago in Honduras when we were doing some training down there. And I think you guys will all see what a great person and clinician he is with this talk today. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Dr. Padilla. Unmute yourself if you can. You're on mute. Good.
Thank you. So good afternoon. Thank you all very much for your invitation. Friends from Rotary, it is an honor, a pleasure to be here today and have this opportunity to address you. So I'm going to share my screen. Perfect. Okay, so, all right. Thank you very much. My name is Marco Vinicio Padilla. I'm an anesthesiology senior resident here in Honduras. Anesthesia residency in Honduras is a 4-year program. So I'm currently cursing my 4th year. And it's a program given by the National Autonomous University of Honduras. It is the only anesthesia program in the country. Just a little bit about myself. I'm currently 34 years old. To the left, you can see a picture of my classmates. We're 5 fourth-year residents at the moment from different parts of the country. That picture was taken 2 years ago. And to the right is a picture of me and my wife. We've been married for 4 years. We don't have children yet. Yeah, so that's a little bit about myself. So I live in Honduras. As you can see, I wanted to make this presentation to have a little bit or mostly illustrations so you can have a better appreciation of the things that are going down here and especially how Honduras, where are we located, and a little bit of our circumstances and perspective. So as you can see, we're right in the middle of what is called Central America, which currently is comprises the countries from Belize all the way down to Panama. And in this picture, I think you can appreciate the kind of relationship we have with the United States, particularly the states of Florida, Louisiana, and Texas, how we're close by to Mexico, which and the Caribbean, which is important because it definitely plays a big role on the influence we have both culturally and commercially, especially from the United States. We're a country that a lot of families have a lot of family members living in the United States, mainly because of the difficulties that are present here in the country, and definitely the closeness to the United States, either by land or by water. People tend to move or try to migrate a lot to the United States. This is our flag. Our flag is basically just represents the fact, the 2 blue columns represent the fact that we have coastal lines with the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, and the 5 stars represent the original 5 Central American countries. So once Central America had its independence from Spain, the 5 original Central American countries were a federal government in its own. And the original countries were Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica. That lasted for about 15 to 17 years. And from there on, each country decided to have a government on its own, and we've been separated ever since. And there has been some integration, maybe commercially or as a region, but there's no federal government, so every country runs, has its own government. It's not federally run, like for example, the United States or Mexico. It's been a curiosity of mine. So how the original 13 states in the United States managed to stay together, and what happened to the 5 Central American countries, states that couldn't stay together. So there's a lot of history there, and there's a lot to analyze why those 5 countries couldn't stay together. So here's my hometown, Tegucigalpa. This is where I met Dr. Allegra. Tegucigalpa is the capital city of Honduras. It's located in the central part of the country. We have a very mountainous terrain, and Tegucigalpa is basically a city built on the mountains. It's approximately 900 meters above sea level, so we have it's not such a bad climate. It gets rather cool in the winters. We have warm summers, but because of the altitude, it's usually fresh at night. We have a lot of breeze. It's very windy. And Tegucigalpa, it's a city that was founded like 500 years ago. It started out as a mining place for the Spaniards that came here to Honduras. It's had a lot of development in recent years, especially in the last decade. And a particular thing that I wanted to mention is that Tegucigalpa is actually like a twin city. It's made up of two cities, which is Comayagüela and Tegucigalpa. They're divided by a river, which is the Choluteca River. So it's curious because I read that the same thing happens in Minneapolis. It's a twin city with St. Paul. So the same thing happens over here, but Tegucigalpa takes the name for the whole city. And this is a picture of Comayagüela, which would be the twin city. Definitely the Tegucigalpa part gets a lot more attention from the local government. There's a lot more development. And Comayagüela area has been a little bit left apart. Another important city here in the country is San Pedro Sula, which is called the industrial capital of the country. I lived my infancy in San Pedro Sula. I lived here for like 11 years before moving back to Tegucigalpa. It's built on a valley, so it's surrounded by mountains. And this is where most of our textile industry takes place. So there's a lot of textile industry and manufacturers around this city. So that's why it has the name of the industrial capital. It's a city that has been hit a lot by crime. In the last 20, 30 years, San Pedro Sula around 2010 to 2014 approximately, for like 4 years, was the city with the highest crime rate in the continent, the highest crime rate. But that thankfully has come down, but I believe it's still in the top 10 places of the highest crime rates for violent crimes in America. We have La Ceiba, another important town, which is like a port city, and it's one of our main tourism destinations here in Honduras. My parents are actually from La Ceiba. My grandparents are also from this city, so I have a special connection with La Ceiba. This is in our northern coast here in Honduras. And then we have Copan Ruins, which I wanted to mention here also. We have a heritage of Mayan tradition. These are the cities that were left by the Mayans. There's definitely, you could probably find a lot more Mayan cities, architecture, and culture in Guatemala and also in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. But we definitely have a big heritage, especially in the Copan Ruins. This is where you can see all this culture. And this is in the west side of the country. So politics here in Honduras, just like a very brief summary, we're a presidential representative democratic republic. We have 3 government branches, the executive, legislative, and judicial powers. Similar to the Republican governments around America. Official language is Spanish. We have a population at the moment of approximately 9 million. Our currency is called the lempira, and to a US dollar at the moment, it's approximately 24 lempiras. So that's where our currency is at right now. Our economy, we're considered a low middle income nation. Our main industries are coffee, textile industries, and palm oil industry. We definitely have a lot of tourism over here, which would go next. And but that's probably the strongest areas of the economy that are handled by our country. Since it's a very mountainous terrain, coffee is definitely big here in Honduras. The textile industries, as I mentioned before, in San Pedro Sula, there's a lot of fabric manufacturing, and the palm oil industry, which has grown in the last 20 years approximately. So a couple of well, incidents that had happened here in Honduras in the recent years that have come to hit the economy rather drastically have been Hurricane Mitch back in 1998. It was a category 5, hurricane. It's probably the biggest hurricane that has hit the country. Basically stood over the whole country territory for like a week, and it was it was drastic. It was very significant, all the damage it made. That was 20 years ago, and we're still recovering from that. Then in 2009, we had a military coup which left a lot of political turmoil. There was a lot of political instability at the moment, and we still see some sequela from that. The country has been polarized after that, and it was very significant, that military coup that happened. Honduras is actually in Central America the only country that back in the 70s, 80s did not go into a civil war. So Guatemala had its civil war, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Honduras has been a rather peaceful country in that sense. We had not had like a civil war or something as big as that military coup in 2009. Then last year we had hurricanes ETA and Iota, which were 2 hurricanes that hit the country back in November, like 2 weeks apart. They were both category 5s. They started category 5s. Once they hit the territory, they came down to category 1. But the soil was already wet and packed from the first hurricane. So the soil apparently it works like a sponge, and it was saturated with so much water. Then the second hurricane came down, and there was very bad flooding, especially in the northern part of the country. The rivers would top off and filled out many. I'll show you pictures of that afterwards. We've also had a lot of migration herds. I don't know if you've probably heard or seen pictures or videos in the news of herds of around 2,000, 3,000 to 5,000 people just marching from Honduras through Guatemala, through Mexico, trying to get to the United States, looking for better opportunities. And another important thing, we had a COVID-19 mobile hospital fraud last year, which is still under investigation at the moment. This fraud consisted of the purchase of 7 mobile hospitals from a provider back from Turkey. So the hospitals, it's been over a year. They were bought for around $15 million, which sums up to around 1 billion lempiras. And none of the 7 hospitals are working for COVID-19 at the moment. They were actually already declared that all 7 hospitals are unfit for the care of COVID-19 patients. So they're basically just there and they're not being used, and nobody has been held responsible for the purchase of these 7 hospitals. These are images of the main industries I was mentioning to you: coffee, textile industries, and oil. This is a picture of what we call bordos here in Honduras. Bordos are like people that make improvised homes from zinc or aluminum houses right next to rivers. This is land that is not taken by anyone, so they just kind of put their houses there. And this is very unstable, as with rains and stuff, the rivers grow and usually get into these people's houses. So this is probably the worst parts in poverty that we have here in Honduras. These are probably the people that have the hardest time in regards to their housing and their resources. This is a picture of how Tegucigalpa, you saw pictures of Tegucigalpa that I showed you at first. This is how it looked back in 1998 from Hurricane Mitch. This is the Choluteca River that divides the two cities here in Tegucigalpa. And it was dramatic how much rain and flooding we had. And most of the parts that were affected by the overflooding of the river are still buildings that were left alone, buildings that have never been used afterward. This is what happened last year from ETA and Iota. You can see how a couple of communities were completely flooded all the way to the rooftops from the overtopping of the rivers. People had to move away. They were living under bridges, and we still have people under bridges, living next to the streets in this little like tent houses because, well, there hasn't been a chance to localize a home for them. So this is kind of what we're looking at right now. This is a picture of the amount of people that go on the migration herds that I was mentioning before. So it's a lot of people. They have children, women, children of any age, older people. And the fact that, well, the people justify moving in herds in a way to kind of protect themselves from burglaries, violence that they might have in Guatemala or Mexico. But either way that they migrate in herds, they're still affected by sickness, of healthcare, and definitely violence. So crime is a big thing over here in Honduras. This is a picture that this is usually what you see on the news, on the papers, and on television. So we have like the police and certain divisions that when they get like people from Maras is the name we call the gangs. So gangs had grown a lot here in Honduras over the past 30 years. Since the 1990s, they started growing, and there are many areas in their main cities that are totally controlled by gangs at the moment here in Honduras. They do a lot of drug trafficking and extortion. And extortion is a big problem here in Honduras because of the violence and the extortion. People can't grow. Like small businesses don't compete. They cannot compete because they have to pay taxes to the government, to the local government, and they also have to pay extortion to have their families safe. And a lot of people, especially on the transportation industry, they've lost a lot of lives because they don't pay extortion. So a lot of violence comes from these gangs. This is how they broadcast when they usually get like a big gang member. You see the police show up with their big guns, and the kind of the money they're handling. They're usually carrying cell phones where they call for the extortions, their guns, a lot of tattoos. So this is kind of what we see on a day-to-day here in the news and on TV. This is our university, the UNA, Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Honduras, or National Autonomous University of Honduras, founded in 1847. And it is kind of the rector for the higher education here in Honduras. It has different, it's mainly based in Tegucigalpa, but it also has sections in the northern part of the country and different parts and other big cities here in Honduras. That's the main campus. So this is Hospital Escuela, is our main teaching hospital, which is affiliated to the National Autonomous University. It was funded in 1968, and the hospital is divided into two parts. It has an adult section for the attention of adult patients, and it has a pediatric and maternity section for that population. This hospital is totally public funded. A patient that doesn't have any resource at all could come to the hospital and they will receive attention, even if they don't have anything, nothing. So we basically received any type of patient here in this hospital from the whole country. It is a third level hospital, which has trauma, a lot of specialties and subspecialties. So this is definitely the main referral center for the whole country. And it definitely has lots and lots of difficulties. This is El Seguro Social, or the Social Security Hospital. This is where I'm working at the moment. I've been assigned to this hospital for the whole year. And the Social Security works on what is contributed by people that have like a formal employment. So they contribute, and that's where the Social Security gets its money, gets its funding. But it had a scandal like 6 or 7 years ago. The hospital director was sent to prison, and it got intervened by the government because apparently like millions of lempiras were taken away from the Social Security. At the moment, the medical director that was put to prison, he's already out. Nobody else has been responsible. And the hospital is actually still in the crisis, trying to recover from all that money that was lost or stolen. So now to our Butterfly IQ ultrasound. So the ultrasound, it's a portable device. It's a very state of the art, top of the line at the moment. In anesthesia, the ultrasound is at something that is very, very big, very useful at the moment. It is in our area is basically used for regional anesthesia, peripheral nerve blocks, and vascular access, whether that be central venous catheters or arterial lines. What it has been mainly been used for from our program right now is for peripheral nerve blocks. And the advantage that we've had in this last couple of months from the use of these nerve blocks and regional anesthesia is the fact that we don't have to invade the patient's airway as much as before, because of the difficulties that presented during the COVID pandemic. Anesthesia personnel, we were probably some of the most exposed personnel to COVID-19 because we always manage the airway of patients when we're providing anesthesia, whether that be putting a face mask or a laryngeal mask or endotracheal intubation. So the fact that we avoid manipulating a patient's airway by providing a specific regional blocks has been a very big thing for us, thanks now to the Butterfly ultrasound. And now I'll show you some of the pictures and some of the things that we've been doing here in the Social Security Hospital. It's incredible the opportunities and the amount of procedures that the fact of having this ultrasound has opened for us. So for example, over here, we're performing a superficial cervical plexus block for a post-thyroidectomy for a patient with thyroid cancer. Now, the purpose of this block was for a post-operative analgesia in this patient to reduce the use of opioids. So using regional blocks allows us also to reduce opioid usage, which has a lot of side effects, especially a lot of nausea, vomiting, respiratory depression, and so forth. And also the fact that patients, there's an opioid crisis, the fact that one of the most used drugs for sedation in the ICUs for COVID-19 patients here in Honduras has been the use of opioids. So there's been a lot of, they've gone scarce in the recent months. So now we have this alternative to perform blocks on the patients to reduce our use of opioids. We've also performed a qualitative echocardiogram for a cesarean section in a patient with an uncorrected tetralogy of Fila. This was like a 22-year-old patient that came in for the cesarean section, and she had a cyanotic heart disease that had not been corrected. And this is rather frequent here in Honduras, since only until recently we've had a congenital heart disease, a surgical correction program. So the ultrasound also serves as a qualitative diagnostic tool for us. It might not be an assessment like a cardiologist would do, but it definitely gives us an idea of what is going on with the patient's heart. This is a picture. You can see most of the pictures are with attendings and junior residents from the anesthesiology program. This is a supraclavicular brachial plexus block for a patient with an aneurysmatic arteriovenous fistula. This is a chronic renal failure patient. So they depend on their fistulas for the renal replacement therapy. And we get these patients on a daily basis. So to avoid general anesthesia in these patients is very helpful for them. And their pain management is definitely a lot better with the regional blocks. This is a patient who had a renal tumor. He was submitted to a laparoscopic partial nephrectomy, and for postoperative analgesia, we performed a quadratus lumborum block. This was a workshop we had with the radiology residents, also from the same university. This is after a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, we performed a transverse abdominal plane block for postoperative pain management. Okay, so this is a superficial cervical plexus block for thyroidectomy. So this type of block, the superficial cervical plexus, is a block that is aimed at nerves in the neck region. So it's a block that was basically impossible to perform before we had the availability of the ultrasound, because the neck has so many critical structures, especially vascular structures. You got the airway, the trachea, the esophagus, that performing blind techniques is basically a tremendous risk. So thanks to the ultrasound, we've been able to perform these blocks that were basically impossible before. Like it wasn't even imaginable to try to perform these. So it's definitely, has been big on our availability, the different procedures that we can perform, our creativity. This is another block we're performing for abdominal analgesia. And this block is very important. This is also the first time we've ever been able to perform this block. This is a serratus anterior plane block for radical mastectomy. So this was a patient with a breast cancer, and she was they were going to perform a radical mastectomy on her. So on this block, we go into the muscle plane and we deposit the local anesthetic to give analgesia for her, that she won't feel pain during and after the procedure. And since this is a block in the thorax and it's so close to the lungs, then it was impossible to perform this block without ultrasound guidance, because of the fact that we could go into the lung and puncture a hole in the lung, and it would give like very big complications for the patient. So this has been a very interesting block that we've been starting to perform now in our hospital. This is another supraclavicular block for humeral shaft fracture, which are very painful and are very common. So we have a very big problem of motorcycle accidents here in Honduras. Okay, and this is I wanted to show you our logo from our residency program. It says Postgrado de Anestesiología, Reanimación y Dolor de Honduras, which is the postgraduate anesthesiology, resuscitation, and pain management program here in Honduras. It has its quote, somnum vigilare, which is the vigilance of sleep, which is kind of our slogan for our residency program. And this is all of our residents currently enrolled in our anesthesia program. So this is what I wanted to show you. I thank you very much for your help and for giving me the opportunity to be here with you guys. So thank you very much.
So if there are questions of Dr. Dia, if you want to ask him a question, please make sure you come up and speak in the microphone so he can hear your questions. I am not seeing any questions. Thank you so much for joining us virtually. We really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much. All right. If John, you want to lead us?
Our